Hey everyone, Ridden here, and thank you for coming. And tonight, we're going to be taking a deeper look at episode 9 of season 1 of Marvel Studios Wandavision. Welcome back everyone, and after weeks of waiting and speculating, the finale of WandaVision is finally here. So let's get to it.
Previously on WandaVision.
I was interested to see if they would start us off right where we left off at last week. And as predicted, they did, putting us right in the midst of the battle between Wanda, Agness, and eventually the Visions. As shown at the start of last week's episode 8, Agatha has the power to take it from others, which we see on full display here in the beginning of her duel with Wanda, as Wanda takes notice of the effects of the power drain on her hand. One of my favorite parts of the episode was Wanda sending her kids to their room while she dukes it out with the neighbor who babysat them, who just so happens to be an evil witch. And in a cool nod to Wizard of Oz, when we see Wanda hit Agatha with the car, the only thing remaining of her in this shot are her boots, which is eerily similar to when Dorothy first arrived in Oz, landing her house on top of the Wicked Witch of the East, leaving only her legs and feet showing. And when Spectral Vision appeared, Wanda initially believed him to be the real Vision, until he decided to I really like the fact that right off the bat, the director decided to answer questions that the audience would no doubt have. Such as, would the kids make it out of the interaction with Agatha? And what would Wanda do when she realized that Spectral Vision had no memories of her and wanted to kill her? Because of the length of the episodes, I knew there wasn't much time for the plot to resolve itself, but I also didn't expect to see Agatha and Wanda and both of the Visions go at it in the first 5 minutes. So I was very happy with getting into the action immediately. And Kathryn Hahn continued to be amazing in this episode, as I loved her quips here and there as they helped to balance out the stakes of it all with a bit of humor.
Oh, this is awful. Your ex and your boyfriend together at the same party. Who are you gonna choose, Wanda?
And alas, we finally got the answer to the burning hot question of who Evan Peters is portraying. Finding out that he's actually the owner of the home that Agatha stays in, whose real name is Ralph Boner, yes, Boner, and was being controlled by Agatha via the pearls we see Monica rip off his neck. So he was in fact the Ralph that Agatha mentioned throughout the entire series.
You're Ralph Boner?
I must say, we have to commend Kevin Feige on this bit, as he knew the casting would get people talking non-stop. And as the reveal was held out until the finale, Evan Peters' involvement has been one of the most discussed plot points in the series since his arrival. We also didn't see Senior Scratchy in this episode at all, and as I had a sneaking suspicion that he was possibly Nicholas Scratch, Agatha's son from the comics, or maybe Nightmare or even Mephisto getting a front row seat to the action, it looks like those were also among the theories director Matt Shakman said fans would be disappointed on. I was also holding out hope that Wu remaining on the outside of the Hex was so that he could be the point of contact whenever Monica's engineer friend arrived, which also turned out not to be true. I do believe now that, as has been stated by people connected to the show, that the aeronautical engineer line was just simply not meant to be an important reveal. I did enjoy the cool callback again to his sleight of hand abilities, as during his exchange with Hayward he manages to swipe a phone and free himself of his handcuffs, calling in backup from Quantico. The finale's final big showdown takes place in the town square. And in this moment, we got even more of our questions answered, as Agatha also confirms for us that the book we saw previously in her basement was in fact the Darkhold, the Book of the Damned, and that there is an entire chapter dedicated to the Scarlet Witch in the Darkhold, telling of her innate power making her stronger than even the Sorcerer Supreme, that being Doctor Strange, as well as her destiny to destroy the world. Also, that she is forged, not born, so she has no need for incantation or a coven. And as Wanda argues back with her, it's a bit of a cool moment in that Wanda basically confirms everything Agatha said, saying she's not a witch, she doesn't cast spells, and no one taught her magic. The most relevant line of the entire episode, and possibly even the entire series, lies in Agatha telling Wanda she is destined to destroy the world, as this is our setup for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which will be further set up later in the episode. Agatha's exposition here in this episode, as well as in previous episodes, proved to be really important, as she has been a constant vehicle of knowledge and background information. In a way, the MCU remained true to her character from the comics, as throughout the past 2 episodes, I think we can say that in a way, Agatha did in fact mentor and teach Wanda things about herself she hadn't thus far known.
Thanks for the lesson.
Here, I thought we were finally going to get our dark turn from Wanda, as the people of Westview swarm her, as Agatha awakens their minds and incites them against her, forcing her to restrain them away. But her coming to the further realization of what she'd done and the pain she caused all of them was a great redemption arc, as we see her begin to open the hex to let everyone out, which in turn also allows S.W.O.R.D and Hayward in. And when Agatha condemns the military and drops a few soldiers from midair, Wanda saves them. Answering another question, we can also add Tommy and Billy to the list, along with Vision, of those not being able to exist without the Hex, as Agatha tells Wanda she tied her family to it. So without the Hex, there's no them, as some of us assume would be the case. I also really like the glimpses of power we got to see from Tommy, Billy, and Monica. Tommy taking the sunglasses and hat here was totally a nod to Evan Peters' Quicksilver doing the same thing in Days of Future Past, making Kevin Feige even more of a big meanie for toying with us. The battle was as grand as promised months ago by everyone over at Marvel Studios, as we see Agatha and Wanda go blow for blow, as well as Spectral Vision and Hex Vision battle it out. Another key moment of the episode was the dialogue exchange between the two Visions in the library, as we begin to see their intellects delving deeper on the actual meaning and identity of their respective existences, using a thought experiment from the field of identity metaphysics to further expand upon which of them is or actually isn't the true Vision. This scene was very interesting to me, as I wasn't expecting the resolution of the Spectral Vision character to go like this. I really thought that Spectral Vision, or maybe Hex Vision, would have to kill their respective counterpart, but after Hex Vision restores Spectral Vision's memory, Spectral Vision proclaims,
"I am Vision,"
and then takes off, never to be seen again in this episode. And in another cool callback to Age of Ultron, we see Wanda appear behind Agatha, the same way she did to Tony Stark, and place her in an illusion, sending her back to Salem to be burned again by the damn members of her coven. Surprisingly, this backfires as the Coven members instead turn on Wanda, further relaying to us, the audience, the significance and danger of the possibility of Wanda being the Scarlet Witch, as Agatha eggs Wanda on, telling her that power isn't her problem, it's knowledge, and that if Wanda gives her her power, she will correct the flaws in her original spell and put things right so that she can be with her family. This moment was awesome, as we got to see Wanda's headpiece manifest itself upon her head, finally confirming that she is in fact a magical being, as the headpiece is similar in appearance to the one we saw appear on the head of Agatha's mother in her initial flashback to Salem. The final fight scene that ensued also more than delivered on the promise of an MCU movie level battle in the finale, as Wanda hurls blasts of her magic at Agness, as we can see her visually beginning to degrade as a result. I honestly believe she really was just missing on the blast that seemed to go by Agatha and hit the perimeter of the hex. So when the final reveal happened, I was honestly shocked. I must also take the time to acknowledge the fact that this scene to me was shot for shot almost a complete replica of the Thanos and Iron Man stare-off and snap scene, as we can see Agatha, similar to Thanos, marveling over her new power, bloviating about how she lied about helping Wanda fix the spell, as once a spell is cast, it can never be changed, and attempting to finish Wanda, who is floating near lifeless in the air, only to realize that she can't, and that it is in fact Wanda with the upper hand, leading to the slow reveal of Wanda being perfectly fine. We then come to realize that Wanda hadn't in fact been missing, but instead she was placing runes on the perimeter of the hex. And as Agatha harped to her in their initial engagement down in her basement, only the witch that created the runes can use magic in the space they enclose. This was an awesome rally back, as I really did believe things were beginning to look bleak, and maybe it was the beginning of the end for Wanda. Wanda drains Agatha of her magic, fully transforming into the image of herself she'd seen in the Mind Stone all those years prior. I love how they decided to end this conflict, with Agatha warning Wanda that she has no idea what she's unleashed and that she will need her, and Wanda calmly telling her, well, cool, guess it's great I know exactly where you'll be, as she imprisons Agatha within the role she hid in for so long as the nosy neighbor in Westview. I believe the way the show wrapped up was beautiful in its nature and in its finality. The decision made by Wanda to resolve the hex, knowingly losing all that she loves and cares about once again, is one that gives me hope that she will in fact remain a character on the side of good in the MCU. I know a lot of people believe that she will become one of the next big villains for our heroes to conquer, which isn't necessarily something we haven't seen done, as any Star Wars or Game of Thrones fan could surely tell you. But I, for one, have really grown to like the character and would more so like to see her maybe walk that fine line of just showing up when she's needed and wrecking shop, regardless of the casualties or ramifications of it all. And if the X-Men ever do make their debut in the MCU this millennia, it would be awesome to see how they handle her interaction with characters like Magneto and Professor X, that she has had such a long-standing history in the comics with. The goodbyes shared between her and the kids in Vision were really touching, followed up by another answer finally being bestowed upon us in the form of Vision finally asking Wanda, what is he exactly? Learning that he is in fact the part of the Mind Stone that lives within her, as well as a mix of other components of all the things that have made her who she is. All of the character resolutions felt very natural, as we see Hayward being carted off under arrest, Wu being, well, Wu, and although we didn't get much of Darcy in this episode, it's very fitting that she was the one to finally stop Hayward from escaping, only to ditch at the end to flee paperwork. I also really enjoyed seeing Wanda and Monica end things on good terms, as Monica tells her, given her abilities, she would have just as quickly brought back her mom. I am very, very interested to see what happens with Monica's character going forward, as this is clearly just her introduction to the universe and a jumping off point for what's to come. In traditional Marvel fashion, we did in fact get post-credit scenes. Yes, plural. Did you stick around for the second one? In the first post-credit scene, we see Monica being led into a movie theater by another agent, who is revealed to in fact be a Skrull, who says she was sent by an old friend of her mother, who heard she'd been grounded and that he would like to meet with her. And when Monica asks where, the Skrull simply points up. I took this to mean that the friend is in fact Nick Fury, who we also know works for S.W.O.R.D, and last we saw him was on a ship in orbit coming off a vacation. So now we have an idea as to what direction Monica could be heading in next, and as her powers are of a cosmic nature in the comics, this could lead to some really interesting twists in Captain Marvel 2. In the final post-credit scene, we see Wanda lakeside somewhere at a cabin at the foot of a mountain, with what seems to be runes on the exterior walls. As she stands from the steps and makes her way inside, we then see her astral form in the bedroom at the same time, reading through the dark hole. This scene to me perfectly sets up the next Doctor Strange film, as we now know Wanda has not only fully become this magical mystical being that could potentially destroy the world, but that she is also now in possession of the Darkhold and furthermore is learning. Also interesting in this moment, as mentioned in previous reviews, is that in the comics, Wanda was born at Wandagore Mountain, which is the home, well, prison for that matter, of Chthon, who was locked away in the mountain millennia prior. While I don't believe this location we see to be Wandagore Mountain, I do believe this is Kevin Feige possibly pulling our leg again. And when she hears Tommy and Billy calling out to her and the scene cuts away, it solidified to me that we have not seen the last of Wiccan and Speed, as I do believe we will see later incarnations of them in some way in the Young Avengers film that is sure to eventually happen. So the question now becomes, with the events of WandaVision in the book and Falcon and the Winter Soldier on the way, where does the MCU now stand? What can we say that WandaVision managed to successfully set up? We definitely got a chance now, it seems, that maybe a West Coast Avengers as well as possibly a Young Avengers team up in the future with the various characters we now see entering the universe. Coming into this year, I wasn't honestly expecting WandaVision to be the standout show of the Marvel Disney Plus slate. So it stands to reason that we can expect the same, if not maybe even a higher level of quality out of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, as well as the Hawkeye series. We also got some pretty solid foundation laid for the Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness film, which we know Wanda will be in. And after this post-credit scene and all of Agatha's ominous warnings, do we know for sure whether Wanda will be a villain or a hero? And given all of the context and clues we've seen, can we expect to see Photon, Nightmare, or Mephisto at some point soon? Where does this leave the Monica Rambeau character? And where has Spectral Vision taken off to? These are all questions I believe we can expect Marvel to answer in the current or next phase.
Yes.
In truth, to me, the WandaVision finale was really good. And while maybe not doing any of the crazy things we, the Rabbit fans, were hoping they would do, they stuck the landing, as people say, in terms of bringing the show and the story to its inevitable end. While disappointed in a way, I can't say that I wasn't thoroughly entertained. The culmination of the plot was more than reasonable and was very satisfying, I think, in terms of the characters we've grown to know and love. To expect anything more of Kevin Feige and the creators over at Marvel Studios than what we got in the finale isn't entirely fair to them, as over the past decade they have built a culture of patience and world building. So to expect them to just start throwing characters like Magneto and Professor X and Adam Brashear as the Blue Marvel, or even Nightmare or Mephisto, is a bit much. Now that WandaVision Season 1 has concluded, I will be continuing to release content here on my channel in the coming weeks, and when Falcon and Winter Soldier begin streaming weekly on March 19th, I will again return to my weekly reviews of the Marvel Disney Plus shows, as well as reviews for select films I have the pleasure of watching. And if you feel so inclined, I would love to have you back here for our next release to cover it with us. Again, guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that bell for notifications if you've enjoyed our content here tonight. Jump down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. And while you're at it, be sure to check out some of the other content here on the channel. All of the necessary links are listed here below for you to keep up with the coming content and shareables. Please be sure to follow me on all social media platforms. Or just the one you use most frequently. We are slowly but surely building a community here, and I would personally love for you to be a part of that. And last but not least, we have a merch store. So whether you see something you like or just simply want to support the channel, head on over to our shop and grab something, or grab everything. But again, thank you so much, guys and gals, for visiting here with us today. I really appreciate each and every view and minute of your time you've given us. There's loads of content we'll be sending your way, so I'll be seeing you. But for now, be blessed. And it was written.
Across the nighttime, the city sleep inside. Yeah, hear her voice, shake my window.